Good to see you. I'm your buddy Bill. This is Global News Morning. We're talking to sellers here of properties, condos, homes. What to do if you want to put your property on the market, what you need to know. It's all about Sellers 101. Yes, please join me in welcoming Matt Lee. And a lot of activity this time of year. Good morning, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well.
Good, good. Yeah, I thought it's one of these things where we're going to run through the questions. And I think that it's, if somebody's wondering what's going on with the market, what do I do with my house? And we'll kind of go through them all together.
Okay, I think a good launching point is when is the best time to sell a house?
Yeah, it's a great question. The market has been very busy steadily for 2 years. In a normal market, spring and fall are the busier markets. The middle of summer is a little slower, and winter is the slowest. Depending on how cold it gets and how much snow. But spring and fall, busy, really busy times.
Okay, how is the real estate market doing right now? A recent news article is that it is slowing down. Prices are coming down a little bit.
Yeah. So as we talked about last week, if we look at it over a year to year span, we were in the mid fives as an average price last year. Now we're at 606. But we were up as high as 650 as an average price in January, February, March. So that market has come down in the past couple months, but we are still up, as an average price, $50,000 from last year. So I would say the increase has gone to a certain point, and I believe that we're going to level off right around where we are. So, when we're pricing houses, we take that into account.
Right. What are the steps for someone to put their house on the market?
I think a market evaluation is where you start. You give somebody a call, you say, okay, let's look at what the comparables are. And as I just said, we look at, are we looking at comparables in February and March, or are we looking at comparables maybe that were in November and December to actually get an accurate number? You have to go through those things and say, what is the realistic number right now? If somebody says, well, my neighbor sold for X amount of dollars in February, can we get that right now? I don't know.
And there's
So
a
we
number
have
of
to really look at it.
and there's a number of factors too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Depends on the neighborhood, depends on the house itself. Is yours in bigger? Is it in better shape? It all depends on the individual house, even if it's relatively the same from the outside.
Right. There's always a discrepancy between municipal assessments and what someone is going to think their house is worth or what it goes on the market for. Explain the discrepancies between the two figures.
Yeah. So an assessment is where the municipality gets your tax rate from. So there's a percentage number, and they get that off of that assessment. So that number is usually lower. And if somebody's lived in the house for a very long time, it's going to be much lower because maybe it hasn't been reassessed along the way. They don't get reassessed yearly. There's actually a line in every offer in the fine print about assessments that if you buy a property and the assessment goes up because maybe they caught it as the house was selling, the taxes will go up. But that is the possibility, because if a house is worth $600,000 but is assessed right now at 350, then they could change. That could come up. It might not come up to 500. It might go up a little bit, which then could potentially increase your taxes. So you just have to know, what is the assessment? If I buy this property, the taxes could go to X, and then and then you have all that information.
Well, you sort of touched on this earlier. How does one know what their house is worth then?
Yeah, basically, as soon as you walk in, that's where that first step is, having the market evaluation done. Two things you can do. The real estate person can come in and do a market evaluation for you, or you can pay and have an appraiser come in. Those are the two ways of having the ability to know what a house is worth.
Okay, let's say you put the house on the market, you found an agent, maybe you have a lawyer to help you out. You're going to want to show it, which is very important. That curb appeal, making people coming through the house very interested in it.
Yeah. So you want to look at how do we set the house up for sale? And I think that, I have a conversation with the owner. Some people say, you know what, I really don't want to get into staging the house. I don't really want to take all of my furniture out. Some people say, let's go to the full tilt. We want to stage it. We want to have the person come in. So it really depends on the seller and how they feel about it, because some people might want a house painted to try to get it to today's look. There might be paint that might have been on the walls for 30 years, and they say, let's just make it white. Let's clean it up and do something. Or somebody might say, so, it's a conversation. It's an open conversation on how the seller feels. And that's where we go with that.
There are some expenses to selling a home and closing it.
Yeah. So on the seller's end, you're going to be dealing with real estate fees, lawyers, adjustments. When you get into adjustments, this is something you want to talk to your lawyer about. If you've prepaid taxes, you're going to get a little bit of money back. If you live in the country, or if you live in town and you have an oil tank, oil tanks, propane tanks, that the seller has to fill that tank to full, and you have to pay for that in advance. But then you submit a receipt, and you know exactly how big the tank is, how much it costs per liter, and then the buyer then sends you the money on closing. So these are adjustments that happen as you come through, but knowing in advance and maybe talking to your lawyer to know exactly what you will be paying out. And then the thought is what if I have a mortgage? I'm 3 years into a 5-year term. Should I be looking at the expense of what's the interest payment that I'm going to have to pay the bank? And that could be minimal. It could be substantial. And I think that is probably the number one call you want to make, is that if you are in a 5-year fixed and you are not transferring that, even if you are transferring it, talk to the bank.
How does the inspection phase work?
There's 2 different ways you can work in an inspection. One is the seller could do an inspection in advance. You could allow a buyer to potentially do an inspection prior to making an offer of any sort, or you could take a condition upon inspection. Those are the 3 things. If somebody's going to do an inspection, trying to make an offer as clean as possible, maybe you do want to do an inspection in advance so that you can say, this is a reputable inspector. We've had it done. This is what we found. Maybe you've rectified an issue that had come up and said, you know what, there was something that needed to be fixed in the eaves trough. It's been done. Moving on.
Good to go. Yeah, the best words that a buyer can hear.
Yeah, they feel, as long as they feel good about the inspector, they feel good about the repairs. You kind of go from there and you carry on. So it's good.
There you have it. Selling 101. We thank you so much, Matt Lee. Be well, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Have a good day.
Real Estate Tips, brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.